Okay. Now, how many of us have had a situation where somebody was just felt like this one person or people just sat around waiting for you to make a mistake so they could pounce on it and they could say something about it, and they would continue to say something about it as long as you know them. They would bring it up, that mistake. I think many people who have been victims of narcissistic abuse understand that. It could be family, it could be friends even, it could be a spouse, whatever kind of significant other, or a boss, a coworker, on and on. But somebody, let's say somebody you've been around, you're around enough or somehow associated with enough. That's a whole lot. For some people it's more than one. It could be several. Okay, now, and they are people, like I said, just waiting for you to make a mistake so they can use that against you, or just use it to laugh at you and to bring it up any chance they get, just to make you feel uncomfortable or be humiliated for whatever they want to choose. They choose to use that for. Now, some of them will only do it sometimes. Okay, not always. Just whenever they feel like it. So you really don't know that they're going to do it every time. Okay. Now, I have a reason, like I said, I didn't say that this is coming up. But I have started reading again. This is not the first time I'm reading scholarly journal articles about persecutory delusions. Now, where I've had issues with this is it doesn't seem to be anything really mentioned about when a person has gone through something like that, and they have that sense that they know from past experience that person and that person and that person, whomever, is going to do it again. Okay, they're going to somehow make them bad, make them feel bad or look bad and still feel bad. You see what I'm saying? I just don't find enough information about that. None, in fact. Now, for some people, it's an issue, a big issue. And I can say that in a way, I have experienced this. I have definitely experienced that of having somebody, more than one, sitting there waiting for me to make a mistake so they could make joke about it. Let me go through this. When I was a kid in school, it was very rough back then. Until, I don't remember what time, but like in school, if a person can make any kind of mistake and get sent to the principal and get paddled. Okay, and they would have the kids out in the hall where other people knew what was going on at until something happened when I was in junior high, yeah. Or maybe the girl was in junior high. And anyway, it was a coach and reported them, and that was it. There was no more of that ever. Okay, never. Yeah, because they were going to sue. The parents were going to sue. And they had to stop it. But before then, there was so much fear. Then there was that, knowing that it could be anything. And the teacher make that decision. Any of the teachers, any of them. Okay? And there was also this thing, there was no thing about no bullying. And there were too many who would just sit around waiting for somebody to even sneeze. And they would make it a big deal. Huge deal out of it. And humiliate them and, joke about it. Or if somebody, like somebody had, their shirt was untucked, like a guy's shirt was untucked. Or, just little things that kids to teenagers do that we all do, even sometimes as adults. Anything like that. There were too many who were there ready to pounce and spread it around the whole grade, whatever grade they were in, the whole school if they could, to laugh at this person. There was nothing against bullying back then, seriously. Not where I went to school. So there was that. And I could go on into my life at jobs. Oh my goodness. I remember one boss, well, I left that one with a bang. Did. I had enough. I sued him. well, not sued them, but I reported them for sex discrimination that was against women, and it was very true. And they knew it, and they were afraid of me, so they started treating other women that way, and not me. And whenever I finally said, I can't take this anymore, I left. I was informed by two of the women that worked there that I knew that they had fired all the women because the women couldn't be trusted. This was say 15 years ago. Yeah, women not couldn't be trusted. They were just too much trouble. Women were too much trouble. You wouldn't think people would get away with that, but they did. And yeah, but I mean, this particular boss, he was one that the people that I worked with, like one of them, she would bang her head on her desk and cry quite often because the boss was just sitting there waiting for any kind of mistake to come out and embarrass people in front of other workers. It was Cubeville, and embarrass them, humiliate them. There was a guy who would bang his fist on the wall. Like he'd get so angry he'd bang his fist and just walk off, storm off, and they were like, he'll come back. It was bad. And at the time, I needed my job. Like I said, I quit. I did. I quit. That was enough. Even though, yeah, like I said, I went out with a bang. And but they were going to make sure that they. Anyway, their boss, that wasn't the only one, and I wasn't like I said, that I wasn't the only one. I intimated that no, it wasn't just me. And the guy hitting his fist on the wall, the woman hitting her head on the desk, pounding it and crying and all this, and that wasn't all. And they didn't mind humiliating us at all. Anything, just awful. But like I said, not the only one. It wasn't never only just me. I cannot remember ever. I have to think about it. Maybe I would remember when it was just me. I was always a bar raiser. Yeah. And then I would have on top of it, I was a bar raiser, which the bosses weren't mad at. Weren't going to say anything to me directly, but the people who were the slackers, oh my goodness, they would jump on me, and then I had to deal with that. It was too much of that. But like I said, I was not usually the only person. It was just too much that, too many bullies. Plain and simple, bullies. And many of them that I see, they had histrionic behaviors, and some of them narcissistic, some of them blend those kinds of behaviors. And like a boss that was very narcissistic, the owner was extremely narcissistic. The behaviors, I'm not diagnosing anybody, but this kind of thing being so common in my lifetime, I see once I stopped working, I'm not retirement age, but I did stop working 3 or 4 years ago, 4 years ago almost, maybe 5. But I had a hard time, and I'm still not capable of doing it, not wanting to multitask. I don't have a boss now. I'm not employed. But I feel such a need to multitask and get a lot done. And I've been stressing myself out. And I have mentioned this. I have tried to say, I can't, I don't need to be doing this. But it becomes such a habit. So much of a habit. Because of it being, pounded into do so much. These bosses, they want everything done yesterday and then some. Okay, even on top of whatever it was you were supposed to do, you're supposed to do more. Okay. And yes, I mainly worked in offices, okay, and sometimes Keyville, sometimes not. Sometimes I was actually the manager, office manager. Oh, but the bosses, oh my goodness. And this wasn't a variety, let's just say variety in my lifetime. And also, people in community, what in your environment, say your family, your friends, their friends, it could be your siblings, your aunts, uncles, whomever. But they're waiting for you to make that mistake, waiting for you not to reach a goal that they told you you should. So they can pounce on you. And then it is them taking their anger, in some situations they're taking their anger out on you. But sometimes some people just enjoy doing that. Quite psycho, if you ask me. But anyway, so I had made also video I made about caring too much about what other people think. Well, we know it's more than just about what people think. It's what they'll say, what they'll do. That whole thing of growing up in it all around, and then aging through it and seeing it so many times. Not just me, not just directed at me. It's, it becomes like, in a way, like, if you're going to, for me, it's a feeling of I need to prepare myself. If I'm going to go into a, let's say a situation with people I know, that they're like this. It's like preparing myself to know that I'm going to go in there. I think that's very different than people who say they just generalize it over everybody. Okay, for one, everybody's going to do it. But there's also something of learning from your past. What type of person would do it? What kind of situation? But at the same time, on the same token, not to generalize, but do generalize. See, and it gets kind of confusing if a person has been through that so much. Yeah. Anyway, one of the things is like I think I mentioned earlier, that I've been reading articles. I was a career student at both undergraduate, graduate school, taught at college and university, and I'm a social and behavioral scientist. Now, this article that I read, it's more recent, and I've had a hard time finding something that I found this was really good, more recent. But I haven't finished reading. I've just read a really short part of it. It's about worry and persecutory delusions. Okay, worry, how important that is, and so forth. But I want to say more on that after I read more about it. But I could see it. I could see what they had said so far. But for me, some of it is, what does it come down to? And it is, not just what they think, not just what they'll say, not just what they will do, but there's also, to me, a fear that I'm going to have to go through this again, or a disgust at knowing that there are people out there who would jump on it, pounce on it. Oh my goodness. Like the people who, I do my videos like this. I have no really desire to put my face on camera. I've done it a few times over the past 7 years, for videos. But it's just not in me. I'm not that much of a need to have somebody sit there and look at me. I could say more about that, and I have. I'm not one of those. But, anyway. Okay, where was I? Yeah, but, that whole thing, I'm looking at my notes, it said that, to care too much about what people think, what they might say, what they might do, because there's a good chance it's been experienced before, especially with someone, and, with certain types. And to me, another part, digging deeper, is about getting too much negative attention, or just getting too much attention. It's quite eerie, seriously, when you've experienced it, and it's not you're making it up. It's actually happened time and time again, like the boss, who's sitting around making people bang their heads on the, hands on the walls, their fists, their heads on the tables, just strung out, so many people so worried. Yeah, that's not something you're making up in your head. It's happening. Okay. And that's a lot of negativity, very harsh on a person. It's very stressful to people, especially people that need their job. They need their job. They need that money. And that was back in the time when it was tough to find a job and all this stuff, and have to deal with that. These days, anyway. or even knowing that's what happens, like you and your siblings all know this sibling's going to do that. This parent's going to do that. Anytime they just feel like they're going to make some insult toward you or both of you or whatever. It's real. It's a fact. It's happened many times before. It's not suddenly going to change. History is a good predictor of, the future with certain people especially. And anyway. Okay, yeah, I was talking about making videos. This is how I make videos. Now, I can tell you, even I know it. If you saw my face, would I say how it would flow better? But I also know that, that it would flow better, and it's easier to understand because you would see my, my nonverbals also. And there are people out there, I am serious, they're waiting to pounce on something. People who claim to have been, they're survivors of this, some kind of verbal abuse or emotional abuse or whatever kind of abuse. They're survivors, and they will pounce on it. They will pounce on my videos. That's to me, it's like, you just told off on yourself. Seriously, very judgmental. I want to see theirs. That's what in my mind I think. I would really love to see yours. Oh, you can't do them. But no, that's just something I say it. I think it's funny to me, but I don't say it. Yeah. That type to me is like, oof, get away from me, shoo fly. Seriously, just shoo fly, block, delete. You're gone. I won't hear from you ever again. But anyway, I went a long way around to give some little background here. But yeah, reading that article is really making me think how much of it was because of how much did I do now? What, in any way, what I do now, do I do because of those experiences in my life? Those past experiences with people who are just sitting there waiting. They're waiting to pounce on somebody. Like I say, some of them get a sick thrill out of it. Some of them, some could be that they were raised wrong. They were raised, well, we could say that in anything. Some were raised in that kind of environment like me, and they think that it's a norm. I remember when I was a kid, I thought it was just a norm because I wouldn't do it because it just didn't seem right to me, but it was such a norm. I didn't have the words for it back then, like, it was becoming a norm. We didn't even talk about bullies. I never heard bullies when I was in school that I remember. The word, the bully. No. Maybe on one of those TV, we only had 3 channels back then, TV commercials, or what were they called? I forgot what they were called. But something like that. Some people were waiting for a chance to pounce on. You don't remember the word, you don't remember the show, you don't remember, and they would use that to humiliate me or whomever it was. That's what they enjoy. Okay. But like I said, I want to dig, I've been doing this over time. I'll check back in on, how am I doing with this? But I realized that it seems like a very little easing up on myself as time goes by, really. I don't think it's because of a lifetime. I'm 58 years old. A lifetime of this, I don't see it's going to suddenly, boom, poof, in my head. Oh yeah, everything's going to change. Because it's a pattern. And I'm saying this for me, not anybody else. Read the disclaimers in the description box below this video on YouTube. But I don't think it's just going to be a sudden aha moment. And everything, it's like I said, everything's going to change. And my life is going to be wonderful. I'll never be doing this again. I don't think that it works like that. Not for me. It took a lot of years to build up. It's going to take some time, in my view, about me, to stop, for me to get better, and maybe, hopefully, be around better people, people who are not like that, just waiting to pounce, just waiting, and yes, no contact is a great thing, for some. I'm not suggesting anybody can be dangerous, draw. Anyway, I'll talk about this again another day. Talk to you on another video. Bye.